Yeah, we're living in a weird time for cinema. And it's a stacked deck, you know. You have to be able to pay all the gatekeepers to be able to sort of get your animal through over all the hurdles and through the hoops and put your baby in the prime position. It's very difficult to get screens and all that stuff now. It's a whole different world.
A lot of people approach their movies and their art as if it's very important and it's going to change the world. And certainly, if that's what drives someone, that's terrific. It's not what I do. So I don't think that my movies are important. I want them to be good. I want them to be emotionally engaging. And I wish more people were making things that were morally ambiguous, that let the characters breathe, that didn't spoon feed you everything with music or very obvious, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys.
And his inspiration comes from within, and he makes these movies first and foremost for himself. And while you might think, well, that sounds really selfish, it's actually not. Because when you as a filmmaker decide to follow your singular vision, and you're only concerned about whether you like the movie or not, the authenticity comes out in the film and the audience feels it, and then it's a really great film.
Movies were considered a grown-up entertainment for a long time, and I think movie-going in general now is such a commercially driven thing that we've seen adults get chased back into their homes. Adults now are expected to stay home and find their entertainment on television, and it's become far more the medium for smart drama and experimentation and things like that. And it's a shame. It's a shame that we've ceded that group experience.
All right, well, that's always the hard thing. Like, how do you create something with original thought and then find a way to put it out there in a system that is, especially nowadays with going to films and stuff, where they're far more risk adverse.
Everyone's afraid to sort of step out there. I mean, hey, quite frankly, there's real fear attached to that, and I'll pay that. I mean, you could lose your dough. And it's an investment that you're making, and it may not come back. So I understand the reticence to sort of like do adult films, I mean, given that your audience is mostly like 15 years old.
But there is a darkness that Mel Gibson has always willingly embraced in his work. And I think it became more pronounced once he became a writer-director and you were able to clearly see what he was drawn to. Mel's never been afraid of moral complexity. He's never been afraid of the gray. He's never been afraid of delving into that.
But, you know, even when something doesn't do well, if it's good, people will eventually find it. And it will kind of get the recognition it deserves for being like a little gem. They go, you know, that was really good. I've seen films like that. You see them all the time. You go, why didn't anyone notice this? You know, it's pretty interesting. There's some really great films out there.
You try to do things that you're interested in. I'm fortunate enough to be at a place in my career. I'm trying to pick things more that I'm really excited to be a part of and do. And Zolder definitely, for me, is that. So you always hope that people see the films and you want them to get the best release possible. And, you know, it's individual. I don't look to do things that are different just to be different. I also quite like the tone and what he's doing.
So stuff where you allow the audience to think and come away and come away with their own opinion. I'd like to see more movies like that. In the case of this piece, I was very much aware when I wrote it, there are going to be people who, from very early on, dislike Ridgeman and Anthony.
If I'm going to buy where this movie's going to go, and I'm not going to just out of hand go, I'm done with you and I'm done with this movie, how could you fucking break the law? You have this great scene where Mel takes Vince to the stakeout place, and you basically get the whole, in a sense, background of who this man is. And I think probably even he would sort of condemn himself in a way, but still after years of being on the job and not being compensated the way he feels he should be compensated, all right, I'm gonna taste a little. Morally complex.
Yeah, this film had a Peckinpah, Don Siegel, kind of John Boorman, you know, in his Point Blank era kind of feeling to it, you know. The characters were kind of, you know, hard. And it just had a good gritty feeling to it that I liked. Even the title, I mean, Dragged Across Concrete. I mean, it kind of says exactly what it is, you know.
I do feel that, you know, it's always exciting and fresh when you see good character-driven stories. As an actor, I like that, and it's nice seeing, you know, movies that are kind of thinking and doing stuff that feels as if it's based on the taste of the filmmaker and not just looking for, you know, a wider release.
And so I really like that about him. It's hard for other people to swallow because everyone's got an ego and we all want our opinions to be heard. But when we sacrifice our opinions for Craig Zahler's creative vision, what you get is a brilliant film, and ultimately we are better producers for it.
I kind of like that. Frees you up because you have to, you know, you have to go for what's important, what battle's worth winning, what, you know, what's worth the fight here. And it just makes it very clear what you actually need.
Here is the bullseye. It's called the script. I'm firing arrows at that until the process is over. And it's really, really simple. And I understand a lot of people don't come from that perspective, where a better release or a chance at an award or the concern of offending somebody might get them to alter what they're doing, whereas none of those stop me from firing the arrow again and again at that bullseye. And that thing is the script, because when I'm writing that script, it's the purest creative experience. There aren't millions of dollars and a crew of 80, 90 people and a bunch of executives and a bunch of producers talking about it. It's me in a room imagining a world, and that world is the bullseye.